to Gen Z on Leadership. I'm your host, Gabriel Gary, and today I'm lucky to be here with Mrs. Amanda Shephard. Shephard is the Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. She has her BFA from Notre Dame University and over 15 years of leadership experience. Thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure, Gabe. Thank you.
Mhm. So I want to start by asking you, so you work in a museum. What made you want to work in the museum instead of going into any other field like education or anything like that?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I actually, when I got to Notre Dame, I actually thought I would study pre-medical studies and go to medical school at some point. I loved science, but I also loved art. I didn't think that art was a viable career path for me, and I knew that I wanted to earn an income. So, and when you go to a wonderful school like Notre Dame, you want to make the education count. So I definitely had my eyes on a career. So I actually didn't do that well in my college biology classes. So I took that as a strong sign that I should not pursue a pre-med study path. I thought, okay, I don't think I'm intellectually at the level that I should be to pursue a medical degree. I think that I'm more attuned to the humanities and art, which was my other talent when I was in high school. So I was struggling with the decision because I really did enjoy the sciences.
Mhm.
I experienced the tragic loss of my father when I was a freshman at Notre Dame, and that was early in the school year. So that was September my freshman year, so not long after I got on campus. And moments like that in your life really cause you to make decisions, and you make um you sometimes you can be really confused, but other times you experience mental clarity, and I experienced mental clarity. And I thought, okay, I need to commit to art. It's what I'm good at, it's what I enjoy, it's what I'm getting A's in, so let's go with this. And again, at a great school like Notre Dame and many other colleges, um you take so many other classes. You take English, sociology, theology, philosophy, math, science, of course. So my education was very well rounded. And what you get at a good school is you learn how to think, and you learn how to be a self starter.
Mhm.
So I studied painting and art history, and that excuse me, because I knew that I was excelling, I thought, I think this is going to be a career path for me. And the what a viable career path for someone with an art degree is to work in museums. So I had my sights set on that pretty early on. I think I knew that I wasn't going to be a full-time painter. That just didn't seem like, I
Mhm.
don't know, I couldn't see that in my future. I wanted to work, I wanted to earn a salary and be a professional. So I'm from the Northeast Indiana area, so I interned at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art between my junior and senior years. And I after I graduated from after the end of my internship, I was asked to consider a full-time job there after my graduation. So it wasn't so much a stark either or. It was just a series of developments over the 4 years of my college career that led me to work at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art.
Mhm. And like I said in the intro, you've been there over 15 years now, right?
Yeah, so my internship was in 2007, and I was full time starting in 2008. So, uh, what is that? 16 years,
Something like
15
that.
years?
So how was your like leadership adapted since the growth of the museum, like in that time period?
Oh, so much. I mean, when you start out as a recent college graduate, you're 21, 22 years old, you have almost no leadership experience. So, to borrow the phrase, fake it till you make it, that's kind of what I did for the first, year or two or three. Um, you're also diving headfirst into a lot of tough decisions. And the more you just get used to making consequential decisions, the more confident you become at making them as the years go by. So I would say, 15 years later, I'm more mature, of course. I'm 38 now. I have more wisdom, and that's just more life experience, um, more people skills. You kind of get a sense when you manage people, you kind of get a sense of human nature, and everybody's different, but there is a repetitiveness to it. There are certain things you can expect in certain situations from people, so that's helpful. Not many things surprise me anymore. I have more confidence in myself, in my decisions, and in approaching difficult situations.
Mhm. How does being the COO compare to being like the your previous positions? I know you were the director of administration programs and even as an intern. How does it compare?
Sure. Well, as an intern, you don't have a lot of responsibility, and uh you can kind of slink back from tough decisions, and oh, I'm just an intern, I just do this kind of work. And when you carry a title like VP and COO, a lot rests on your shoulders. So um some of those titles were just title changes. They weren't necessarily big changes in responsibility, but our management structure at the museum has changed quite a bit over the last 15 years. We've increased our staff size, we've increased our capacity, our horsepower, so to speak. We have more bandwidth, we're just doing more things, and so that has created the need for more management, more day-to-day management that the CEO alone can't accomplish. So we have 3 VPs on the staff. I'm the VP for operations. We have a VP of development and fundraising, and then a VP for programs. So each of us takes a group of staff and kind of manages that, and then we all report up to the CEO.
Mhm. What does the typical day look like as the COO?
Well, it can be very unpredictable. As a public facing institution, you are there to serve the community. So people come first, and the needs of the public are the first priority. Everything that we do is for the benefit of the public and is meant to be consumed by the public. Maybe consumed isn't the best word. It's meant to be a benefit to the public and used by the public. So everything is about a deadline. We've promised the public that this is going to be on display at a certain time. So how are we going to make this deadline? So much of it is about raising money and making sure that we're being responsible with our spending. Um, what that usually means in a typical day is I'm in a lot of staff meetings, guiding staff and helping them make decisions. So much of my job is helping staff to make good decisions, and um, again, that is a fruit of experience, but the goal there is also to make your team um, self-sufficient and to take pride in their own work. Oh, I help solve problems all the time. I untangle difficult situations. I take on the things that no one else knows what to do with. And then, of course, in operations, your job is to make sure that everything works. Is the building working? Is the budget working? Does the staff know what they need to be doing? Does the reporting structure make sense?
Mhm.
Um, did everybody's paychecks land on time? All those things that make it run, I have to make sure that that gets done.
Right. And then what's the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout all your positions from intern all the way up to VP?
Listening to your gut is a better tool than I think I would have thought 15 years ago. And it doesn't mean, you're being impulsive. It just means that if you think that something could go wrong or is going to go wrong, you're probably right. I've learned that lesson so many times where, you know, I haven't asked the what if question. What if this happens? My job is to look out for all risks. Um, to the point where it can be kind of annoying to the other staff because you're always thinking in potentially negative ways. Um, sometimes we have to get armed security for certain events, and nobody likes the thought of having an armed police officer there. But chances are nothing bad is going to happen. But if something bad were to happen, you'd really wished you'd listened to your gut when you thought, I think we need to have a police officer here. In this day and age where bad things happen, it seems more often than maybe they had in the past. It's my job not to take those kinds of chances. So anytime I have that gut feeling that,
Mhm.
hey, we should set up a safeguard for this situation, even if it's going to cost us extra money, even if it's going to be a little bit of a hassle, even if it looks like maybe it's too much. And not even necessarily with police officers. We're talking like, hey, if this fundraising event doesn't go well, do we have a backup plan to raise that money if it doesn't go the way we think it's going to go?
Mhm.
Or hey, a week from now we're supposed to get sub-zero temperatures and 6 inches of snow. Do we have a plan for plowing, um, salting, and maybe closing the museum? Again, it's all about contingency planning and listening to your conscience when your conscience is telling you you need to do something about it. Because if I don't do something about it, then who is? I mean, that's kind of going back to what I said earlier about carrying the title of VP. I shouldn't expect my staff with less responsibility to handle something like that. I'm the one that needs to initiate a plan and have them participate in executing it.
Mhm. And what is your favorite part of working as the VP right now?
Well, so Fort Wayne is the second largest city in Indiana. It's not a huge city, but it's not a small city either. It's a wonderfully sized city. So second largest city in Indiana. We have one of the largest museums in the state. We also have the largest public collection of contemporary studio glass on display. And all of those things point to the fact that this museum is growing. It means something to a lot of people, and to know that I play a key role at a place that means something to a lot of people is very rewarding. And that's what I enjoy about being a leader, especially.
Mhm. And you've definitely been there a while, so you've seen what your bosses or administrators have done, and even at Notre Dame, you've probably seen. Was Monk Malloy there when you were there?
He was, I think he had stepped down the year before I got there. And I think my first year was when Father Jenkins was president.
So,
Yeah.
what qualities do you think them or any good leader possesses?
Well, I don't know that I can speak with a lot of knowledge about either of their two leadership positions, but the little that I do know is that um, both seem to have humility about them. They're both priests, so I hope humility is part of it at some point.
Mhm.
Um, but also humility in the face of a lot of pressure. I can only imagine what the pressure is like to be a university president. And if I take that lesson and apply it to my own leadership, I I think that courage is very important, and courage doesn't necessarily mean, that you're going to do anything or you're going to take a lot of bad risks. It means that you're going to do the right thing, even if people don't want you to do that thing. It also means that you need to come to understand what the right thing is. You have to make a judgment in a lot of situations, and you have to make decisions, so that necessarily means that I will do this thing and I will not do this thing. So you might disappoint people who wanted you to do the other thing that you didn't do, but in making a decision, you're actually choosing one path over another. So it takes courage to make those decisions. You want to take into account what is the greatest amount of good I can do given my circumstances. Not every decision is 100% perfect. Sometimes, you think, well, given my options, they're not, three of them are not my favorite, but maybe this fourth one isn't the worst one. And, just sometimes given difficult circumstances, you may have to choose something that isn't perfect, but will create some good given the difficult circumstances.
Mm. And finally, what advice would you give to young and new people wanting to lead in any field?
One of the best things that I did to help me learn was, well, I'll back up to high school and even middle school. So uh, I think it's important for young people to have a job as soon as they can start working. And the job, I think it's also important for young people to learn to do some kind of manual labor. My first job was I worked for a family friend who owned a lot of acres of cornfields. And it was seed corn. So I don't know if you're familiar with this, Gabe, but for seed corn, you have to detassel it, and you have to detassel it by hand. And if you go into 100-acre field and pull out the tassels that has the pollen on it so that it doesn't cross fertilize, that's what you have to do. And it was long, hard, grueling work. But I'll never forget the work of that first job and how difficult it was and how grateful I was to have done that kind of work. I was also a waitress in the summers, which is really difficult work because of how unpredictable customers can be. And learning how to serve people and to be friendly and calm no matter the circumstances, even if they're mad at you, that's a good leadership skill to acquire early on. And I think working in a restaurant is a good thing for young people. Now, you don't have to work in a cornfield or work in a restaurant to acquire those skills, but I think the lesson in what I'm saying is that don't ever think that you're too good to do a certain kind of job, because one day you might be leading people who do those kinds of jobs, and they are going to need your leadership to help them do their job well. And you are going to need them to support whatever organization you're in. Every person is important.
Mm.
The other thing that I would say is, let's say you do get a job at in the government or in a nonprofit organization or university or some place that is, in your career path. Say yes to as many projects as you can. Before you get married, before you have kids, you have so much free time and so much energy. And those early years of your career where you accept this job that maybe you don't know how to do, your manager, your boss says, hey, you want to do this project? I would encourage young people to say yes, even if they don't know how to do it. That's how I got into administration. I mentioned my degree is in painting and art history. So how does that translate to running a nonprofit? Well, one of the first projects I did was I purchased furnishings for the museum when we were undergoing a renovation. So I had a budget, and I bought office chairs and cubicles and different things like that. That's not anything I learned in art school, but it was the first time that I learned how to manage a budget, make decisions, which were consequential decisions. I was tasked with buying the right thing and staying within a budget. I didn't know what I was doing, but I had some really generous managers who let me run with that. And that's where I realized that I liked doing that kind of thing. So, in summary, I would just say to a young person, try to do some manual labor in your teen years and in your early career, accept as much of a workload as you can because it's going to flex your muscles in the future and help you become a stronger leader.
Well, thank you so much. Those are my questions, so thank you. If you enjoyed today's episode and want to learn more and support the podcast, follow us on Instagram at Gen Z on Leadership and subscribe to our YouTube at Gen Z on Leadership. If you want to learn more about the podcast, you can check out our website, which is genzonleadership.com. Again, that is genzonleadership.com. And as always, stay tuned for all new episodes. We try to post 2 to 3 a month.